we are capable of winning all of those 4 test matches. But equally, so are the opposition capable of beating us.
We're not the best team there, but I'm going all up the wires on it. You know, this might just be our year. Go on, you Black Caps.
With Ireland, does that feel like a bit of a waste? That test is not in Dublin? I'm talking more about the atmosphere. I'm talking about the occasion, because that's now one of the bigger rivalries in world rugby.
I mean, I thought I was going to die, but thanks to the psychopath next to me, I was all right.
Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble. Oh, he's done it again, Ricky Herbert.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Marty, Devlin, Lachlan Waugh, DSPN. Rugby confirmed. The All Blacks going to be playing Ireland in Chicago. First of 4 Grand Slam tour at the end of the year. So who better to get on, talk about all of that than Justin Marshall, who joins us on the show to look also ahead to round 2 of Super Rugby and debate whether it's time to ditch that awful rolling maul, or at least rewrite the way that it is reffed. Miles Davis on a Wednesday with a good old rant and rave about all things sports newsworthy. And we're going to play glass half full, looking at last night's Halbergs. I think, now, no great surprise, Lydia Ko won. I think we're all sort of thinking that might happen. We'll also look at Joseph Parker's prospects against Dubois. And Liam Lawson, is he going to make a podium finish in F1? We begin the show the same way every day.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
I want to believe, Black Caps, I want to believe the Champions Trophy kicks off tonight with us playing the host Pakistan. Yes, it's now rugby season, but yes, it's also still summer, so that means it's also still cricket season. And this tournament means something. Outside of the quad-annual One-Day Cricket World Cup, this is the next biggest one-day event. The only other event, in fact, that carries any kudos and is actually worth winning. It's also the only significant international limited overs tournament that we have ever won. Kenya, 2000. Chris Cairns going ballistic, taking care of India in the final. White ball cricket nowadays comes and goes, and it's just so easily forgotten. It's quite sad. Case in point, when was the last ODI series that we played? Who was it against and what were the results? If you can't remember, it was in fact a month ago here in New Zealand versus Sri Lanka. That important, huh? And look, no disrespect at all to us, to them, or to the games, or to anyone who paid, anyone who went along and watched. But it's just so forgettable. It just slides away these days. That's what the greedy fishheads who run international cricket have done to the game. They've made it a big nothing. Apart from World Cups and this here tournament, the Champions Trophy. And it's easy to follow this. It's a great format. Top 8 sides play off in 2 pools of 4. The top 2 cross over, meet in the semis. Then the winners go to the final. 15 matches over 19 days. And it is just a huge pile of cash up for grabs if you do win it. If you still love your one-day cricket, it's a brilliant tourney. Apart from the time zone, which totally sucks. Now, matches here every night start at 10 p.m. and go to around 5 a.m. So let's figure out how we're going to be watching this. We start on the couch. Probably end up in bed, and it might be one of those ones where you just wake up every hour and check the score and go, oh, hang on, so what is 155 for 2 after 30 overs? Oh, we're doing okay. Or you pull an all-nighter if you're a diehard fan. Warm-up. We've won all 4 matches, so our guys are clearly in form and battle-ready, as opposed to last year's T20 World Cup, where we couldn't be asked turning up in time to play any warm-up matches and were humiliated. Bounced out early, remember? Losing historically and embarrassingly to Afghanistan. But this time, I'm feeling it. I want to believe we're definitely handy. Okay, we're a couple of bowlers down. Lockie Ferguson gone, Sears gone, Duffy's in, Kyle Jamieson on the way, and Ration probably won't play because of the ball in the mush. Gary Stead says he'll play the next game. I reckon we've got about as much chance of winning this as, say, the Crusaders do of making the Super Rugby final. So we're in with a chance. We're not the best team there, but I'm going all up the wires on it. You know, this might just be our year. Go on, you Black Caps.
Devlin.
Justin Marshall joins us again. So much rugby to talk. Is that a Blues jersey you're wearing there?
No, it's not, mate. It's just a training shirt. But
okay. All right.
Yeah, it is looking very blue, is it? Maybe I've just come out in support of the Blues after they weren't able to get a home game win in the opening round, which was a bit of a surprise, but it was a belter of a game.
It was, wasn't it? We'll get on to Super Rugby, a little bit about last week, but also a couple of cracking New Zealand derbies this weekend shortly. But the news announced, I think we already knew that we were playing Ireland in Chicago, and then we've got the Grand Slam tour after that. Justin, let's park the 2 tests against the Springboks. This is probably the next biggest assignment, no disrespect to the Rugby Championship with the Bledisloe Cup, isn't it? Trying to secure a Grand Slam, and it's a hell of a way to start with that repeat of the Chicago 2016 test.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And the fact that that Chicago test has now been confirmed, even though we knew that it was going to happen, but to have Ireland there, and obviously that's been a bit of a happy hunting ground for Ireland in the past, and the first time that they ever beat the All Blacks, so it holds some pretty negative history for the All Blacks as well. But it's a cracking city. Soldier Field is an amazing stadium, and to set this Grand Slam tour off on a huge note, to play in America, in Chicago again against Ireland, just absolutely fantastic. Great announcement. I'm so pleased that the powers that be have managed to achieve this, because I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Justin, the field is narrower. We got that last time. The Warriors are going to play on a narrower field, obviously, in Vegas, because the NFL field's just done. How much of a difference does it actually make?
Oh, look, it certainly has an effect. When you want to use the full width of the field in terms of cross-kick execution, what you're used to in terms of the width of the field, well, that changes. Obviously, it's easier to defend because you don't have as much space that you have to cover. And it makes attack a little bit more difficult because, again, the defence is narrower. So you've just got to think about that. But ultimately, if you do the right things, you'll find overlaps. You'll find the space on the outside, on the edges anyway. So, yeah, you've just got to make sure you're nice and smart. I think basically, when I sort of try and boil down a narrower field, it rewards teams that are patient, teams that are prepared to hold on to the ball, knowing that if the field's narrower, the people that are cleaning the rucks don't have to go as far, and halfbacks don't have to run as far because you're narrowing that width. So if you can be patient with the ball in hand and then wear the defence out until you finally find the space, that's that's the key to success on fields that are a bit smaller. I remember playing at the Leicester Tigers field in the UK, and they purposely made their field narrower.
I love hearing stories
because they just wanted to rely on their massive forward pack that they had to win games. So it is advantageous if you know how to use it properly.
So how long does it take practically, for you as a player to get used to that? And do you actually have to train? Or on the training fields, do you just bring it in? How many days does it take before you actually adjust your kicking and things? Because as you've been saying, we see a lot of cross kicks at the moment, and we see the ball being used. You're looking at green space and that. How long would it take?
It doesn't take the players long to adjust and adapt, they are so now well drilled and well skilled in all areas of the field. Once they sort of get their head around exactly what they're operating with, it doesn't change the shape of the way that you want to attack, or equally the way you want to defend. To a degree, it makes it slightly easier for both. But it just means that you just, like I said, you have to a degree, just think a little bit more about making sure that you are holding onto the ball and being smarter about the areas that you play in, but equally knowing that the opposition are also going to be figuring out smart ways to play on a narrow field. But in terms of adjusting and training, they'll narrow their training fields and adjust to the width of what the field's going to be like at Soldier Field. And both teams, look, we got a spectacular game last time they were there, Marty, didn't we? I think Ireland scored 6 tries or something 5
like
tries
or
something ridiculous like that against the All Blacks. And it didn't seem to affect the spectacle by any means. So
I think there was Joe. That kind of catapulted Joe Schmidt, didn't it? There was like, this guy's. And since then, here's a great stat: we've played 10 times. We split it 5 each. So it's a hell of a rivalry, which was born of that day.
It was born of that day, and obviously it stung the All Blacks, and losing for the first time in our history. It's never nice because that's a piece of history you can never get back. And Ireland were very well aware of that, and the All Blacks, obviously they felt that pain of being that team that had the enigma of finally breaking a record that the All Blacks had held for over 100 years, and that hurt them. And I think that was what motivated them as well, because when they went back to Dublin, they actually won the Test match over there. So since then though, there's been a real rivalry. Both teams, with Ireland coming out here beating us here twice and on our own soil. It's just created this tension between them, and I don't think that's dissipated after Rugby World Cup, where the Johnny Sexton, Rieko Ioane stuff all surfaced, and also Peter O'Mahony and what he said to Sam Cane. It's just fueled what is a great contest now, and good for it. We all get a spectacle out of it, so we should be happy.
So, can we look at in the All Blacks and think, we should win that Grand Slam? I mean, Ireland obviously, but then, we beat England at Twickers last year. Then you got Wales and Scotland, who we should beat. So we've got to target all 4 tests and go there thinking we're going to get a Grand Slam.
Absolutely, and this team is capable of winning every test match I think, this year. It's just about making sure that they do their due diligence in terms of their prep and knowing what strengths the teams that they have up against them present, and don't be dismissive of them. Like, if you're dismissive of England at Twickenham or Allianz Stadium, whatever you want to call it now, then you will find yourself being bitten, because you haven't given the opposition the respect. Equally, Wales at this stage haven't been able to win a test match in 14 test matches, but you just never know. Like, they've got everything to gain by absolutely turning around the last 2 years of massive problems by beating the All Blacks for the first time in over 70 years. So they've got a hell of a lot to play for, and Scotland are capable too. So in answer to your question in a long-winded way, which is my style, Marty, as you know, yes, absolutely, we are capable of winning all of those 4 test matches, but equally, so are the opposition capable of beating us if we don't get our prep and go out and play our full percentage game against those sides.
Look, we probably talked to death the first round of Super Rugby, which is a cracking first round. I've got a couple of topics I wanted to bring up, though, before we look at these key matches this weekend. One of them being the rolling maul. And look, it was an effective way that it was used by the Brumbies against the Drua. The Force were good at it as well. I know it's part of the game, but, and this comes up a lot. Is it time that the laws were rewritten? Because it just seems to me to be almost anti-rugby. When you've got a guy that is holding the ball, he's got one hand on the butt of the guy in front of him, and that keeps him bound. Then he's got players that come from behind his hind feet who go ahead of him, and they're not offside. I mean, that's a truck and trailer and any other description of it, which would be offside. It just seems to me to be anti-everything about the laws. And I don't know. I know it's part of the game, but, the way the laws have been rewritten over the last few years is we're trying to create space, use the ball and score tries. And this, to me, is everything other than that.
It is. And look, I feel your pain, and we always have regular conversations around the rolling maul, don't we, within our game, and the legalities of it, how the law is interpreted, and whether or not it's something that we need in our game. But I think the arguments that sway towards having it in the game are quite valid, which is, if you don't have the rolling maul when you're in that sort of 22 area, 15, 10, 5 metres out from the line, and teams know that they don't have to defend that, then all of a sudden they just spread out. And it makes it a hell of a lot harder then to try and score points in that zone. If they have to prepare themselves to stay tight initially for the rolling maul, then you've got a congregation of players in that zone, and it opens up the rest of the field. So, look, I still feel there's a place for it. I agree with you. There are some interpretations that don't make sense. I quite like the fact that they are now calling the 5 seconds, one will go a lot quicker. I would just like to see it go back to one chance. You get your maul set, you have a genuine dig at the line. If the opposition are good enough to stop you before then, there's no second chance. It's basically the referee goes, release it, and the game plays on. And that might just speed it up a little bit, and it won't get so mundane.
Okay. How about going back to the rule we used to have, where in these kind of contact situations where the team going forward retains the ball, which encourages the defence to commit extra players to it, which does open the gaps out wide. You know how that rule used to be? If you got some forward momentum at that ruck time, well, you could turn it over with that. And I don't know why that ever got taken out of the game, but the whole point of it, as you say, is to bring as many players in to spread that. So maybe even bringing that might be a good idea, bringing it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've just got to continue to debate, what's going to make the game, exactly, more entertaining. And I certainly found in the opening round of Super Rugby, the laws that they've brought in, the fact that you can no longer now basically shadow a player when he's looking to attack a receiving kick. You've got to get out of that zone. So basically, for want of a better word, you can't shepherd anymore. The 30-second rule for lineouts and scrums. We had the ball in play was up by 2.5 minutes on average of what it was in play last year. So we had, I think it was just over 38 minutes of ball in play. Last year it was just under 36. So all of a sudden we are now seeing a lot more positivity in terms of the players knowing that the game is fast and the ball is in play a lot more. So we're getting there, Marty. We're getting there. Might not be there with the mauling yet, but we certainly are improving the game.
Well, and also no TMO interference was just a joy, wasn't it? And all of those games, had something on them right into the last 5 minutes, which was really compelling. The other one I wanted to raise with you was Damien McKenzie, who I just thought was absolutely brilliant, playing 2 positions in the same game. Now we've got, we've got Finn Smith and we've got Marcus Smith who can interchange. We've had Beauden Barrett and Richie Mwang are both, 10s, and Beauden playing fullback, so he could play both positions. But maybe Damian McKenzie can legitimately play both positions in the same game like we saw him play for the Chiefs, because when he started, taking that pivot role, that first receiver role late in the game, well, it obviously changed the game, didn't it? So I'm actually fascinated to see how that unfolds this year, and especially what Scott Robertson is thinking in terms of him.
Yeah, and where he fits into Scott Robertson's pattern and shape and the way that he wants to play, absolutely. I totally agree with you. His performance at the weekend was outstanding, and that was a classic Damian McKenzie. Basically the Chiefs trying to find their way back into a game, being shut out a little bit, and then bang, he just manages to create things out of nothing, skins defenders laterally, which he's so very good at, comes in as a second receiver, and then switches position in the second half. But my rebuttal to that would be the fact that's different when you play against New Zealand and Australian teams, because we defend differently. Okay. So when he's coming in, he's got a hell of a lot more time. When you are switching positions at international rugby, you don't have the time. You are squeezed a lot more. Teams like Ireland and France and even Wales and England, they defend really narrowly and they put massive pressure on you as a first receiver. So Damian McKenzie will look good in Super Rugby. When it comes to international rugby, your time and what you see in front of you defensively is completely different. So when you switch during a game internationally, it's just a hell of a lot harder, Marty. Okay. Whether that's the right thing for him as a player, and he's not constantly getting time in a specific jersey to really grow into that for the year. Yep. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Okay. No, I go with that. Yeah, as you say, Super Rugby is completely different. Great crowds as well. I mean, it's a rainy night at Eden Park, well over 20,000 for that.
Again.
Does
it ever stop raining in your city, Marty?
Well,
please.
Just every time the cameras are on. Yeah. Every time the bloody cameras are on.
Sporting event, you can turn it on like a tap. It literally was a beautiful day, and boom, there it goes. Might as well have some rain.
Crusaders against the Chiefs this Friday night in Hamilton, and I could almost feel the relief from Rob Penny at the end of that Hurricanes game. Again, it was a cracking game of rugby. I was gutted, of course, because being a Wellington lad, but couldn't win the first 5 last year. What's that going to do for the Crusaders in terms of their belief? This is a Chiefs side that we also saw, sub part of the question, really muscle up and almost attack the Blues in the same way the Blues play and go, no, we're going to actually physically front you guys. So this is we saw a great game opening round last year between these two teams at the same venue. So how do you see this one on Friday night? It's just a really brilliant way to kick off round 2.
Oh, it certainly is. Yeah, and both of them were involved in really high quality games last weekend. So they'll be much better for having hitouts like that. They didn't have clunky performances. They didn't have an opposition that was weak and didn't compete. Both of them had to work really hard for their wins and had to find a way to win. And both of them did that from coming from behind on the scoreboard. Which goes to show that they've got good quality, good experience. The fact that they were able to bring, I think it was 5 All Blacks or something like 6 All Blacks off the bench to Chiefs shows that they've got depth. Equally, the Crusaders have got really good depth as well. They've got quite a lot of test caps within that side now. Guys like Will Jordan and Sevu Reece were in outstanding form in the first round, showing absolutely no baggage from their November tours and a lot of All Black work. So that's great to see. Like the inclusion of James O'Connor when he came into the game late with his experience. This is going to be a belter of a game. I don't think it's not going to be won by one of those two teams not quite nailing it down because they're lacking experience, because both of them have got heaps of that. They've got it in abundance. Home ground advantage for the Chiefs. And there's a real rivalry there now between the Chiefs and the Crusaders that's developed. Success has bred that. And they've had some really cracking games over the last 5 years in particular, with both of them winning titles as well. So it's well set up. I'm sure, again, we're going to see some high-quality performances, some awesome individuals out there as well to compare. If McKenzie starts at fullback, it's McKenzie versus Will Jordan. How good.
Yeah, how good's that? And then, of course, you've got the Blues who are going to be smarting, and especially with Vern Cotter, which I reckon, there's something psychological about him saying, our boys just might have been coasting a little bit, which is going to hurt those players, him saying that. And that means that they go down to the Highlanders. And Jamie Joseph, he doesn't need to say anything to his players. They had that game again in the bag like MP did against the Force. And to lose it at the death like that, what a way to start for them if they had got that win. So I'm really looking forward to this game as well. On paper, you'd think the Blues would be too strong. I'm hoping a good crowd turns up. It's O week, of course, and my youngest is down there, and As he tells me, he said, "Oh, good luck for your exam today, Paddy." I said, "Yeah, good luck for O Week, pal," is my thing. So, yeah. So look, hopefully another cracking crowd down there as well. But again, I don't think the Blues have got it all their own way. I mean, I'd love to see an upset. I can't see it, but I'd love to see the Highlanders at least front and again play really well in that game.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I think it's a really tough game to call in terms of who's going to win it. Now, the Blues, yes, they're favourites because of their success of last year, but equally they've got a target on their back this year. Every team wants to test themselves against the benchmark team, which was the Blues last year. They're comprehensive winners of the Super Rugby title. So to find out where you are and how you measure up in the season, you test yourselves against the best. And their squad's not changed much, and they've got the majority of players that were there last year, and they look ever as good as what they were last year. So, that motivates the opposition. You're right, it is O Week, and if people out there don't know, with O Week, when you buy your tickets to all the parties and the good fun during the week, it also gives you tickets to the Highlanders game.
Yes, it
so
does.
you get to go to the zoo. So the zoo will be packed. I think the performance last week of the Highlanders was massively encouraging, that they can actually compete this year. And as you said, they should have won the game, so that'll bring people along to the stadium as well. And then, like you say, you've got that factor of Jamie Joseph, who he just looks like he's already added some steel to that team. Their physicality, they'll be tough. They'll know the DNA of the Blues. They want to run at you, and they want to take you on physically. And I can just see him in the changing room before that game saying, "Hey, they're coming at us. They're going to be one-off runners, and we are going to stand up and we are going to take them on one-on-one and let them know that we mean business."
Yeah,
that's his mentality. And then they've got some, like Tavatava Norway playing 12, man. Far out.
Yeah.
Like, how good did he look? They've got some pace on the outsides, and I thought the halves played really well too. So, yeah, it's really well set up. You know what? I think I'm smelling a little upset there.
I'd love to
say
see
the Highlanders going to sneak that.
Go on. All right, let's finish with Australia then, who would have been delighted. That's the first time in the opening round they've won all three matches. We get to see the Reds for the first time. They play MP. That's a real tough ask for MP on that Australian tour. And also the news that Michael Check has already been interviewed for the Wallabies job. Back to the Future. You're kidding me.
I know. Well, they'll be hoping that they don't have what happened to them when they brought a coach back in that's already coached.
That's right.
With Eddie Jones, because that didn't work, did it? And we've just seen that Warren Gatland's had the same problems as well with Wales losing his job after being so successful when he was there originally. So Michael Check has been there before. In saying that, he's got much better cattle to work with now after the work of Dave Rennie and Joe Schmidt and bringing some real depth into Australian rugby. So he would be coaching a side that's got better individuals and more depth to work with. But look, he's a competitor. He's coached successfully against the All Blacks and equally in Super Rugby. He's well grounded. He wouldn't be a bad choice, and he is Australian. I don't think they're going to think. They will think very seriously about bringing another foreigner in. You remember the crap that was flying around in Australia about, oh no, not another New Zealand coach. We've had Rennie, that didn't really work. Now we've got Joe Smith, and they complained about that. But then now they don't want him to leave. So it's like, I think they're probably realising that it's not such a bad thing. But I'm not surprised that Michael Check is putting his hat in the ring. He's too much of a competitor. Looking forward to round two. Thanks as always, mate. We'll talk next week. Absolutely, Marty. Look forward to it. Cheers. Time to play your favourite game, Lachlan, which is called... I'll give you a clue.
Don't do that. What is that?
It's drinking. Paul Merson used to do it, the Arsenal striker. Every time Arsenal won, he'd do it. I go to the boozer and it's Skull and Pints. Oh, mate.
Well, it looks like you're shoving something else towards your face.
So this is what your generation's done to the world. When you say BBC these days, you don't mean British Broadcasting Corporation, do you?
I do. What else would BBC
Glass
mean,
half
Martin?
full.
We're playing glass half full.
I've never been on that website.
I give you a scenario and you tell me whether it's glass half full, glass half empty. Lydia Ko winning the Halberg Supreme last night.
Ooh, glass half full.
Yeah, it has to be glass half full.
Who is glass half empty about that?
Well, I thought actually that they may have shared it for the first time probably.
No,
ever.
that is so lame.
No, that's sharing... so New Zealand is what it is, isn't it?
Lame. You can't share things in sports. You just can't. Okay, football gets away with it with draws because they've done it for over 100 years.
We live in a country, mate, where everyone gets a prize.
Yeah, they do. Yep, I remember in year 11, I don't need to go into that because that's actually really embarrassing. But the point is, everyone gets an award, even when you do poorly. You get participation medals or certificates.
NCEA these days, you get an award for turning up, don't you?
Mate, when I was at high school, you could get 40% on exams and you'd pass.
This is what's wrong with our country.
A merit, which sounds like a merit's a pretty good,
merit means that you turned up to class half the time.
You could get 60% on something and get merit.
And we wonder why we're in the shtuck we are. Anyway, Lydia Ko, congratulations. It could have gone to Lisa Carrington. I
really thought it would, purely, and we talked about this yesterday, that you can't take into account previous success outside of this calendar year, whatever. But I really thought she'd actually get it because of the fact that she now has 8 golds, which is unbelievable.
She's going to get more too.
She will get more. She'll probably crack double digits.
I would think so.
I would have. I really would have thought she would have gotten it. But
and this is with every pun intended. She will be K2. She'll be behind the Mount Everest, which is Michael Phelps with 23. There's every chance that she'll be second in the world.
Who has the second most? Number of medals?
At the moment,
gold medals?
At the moment, it's 9, and it's shared by Kate Ledecky and Carl Lewis, and I can't remember the other one, but there's 3 of them on 9. K4 crew winning team of the year, glass half full, glass half empty.
Again, glass half full, because congratulations, spectacular Olympics for them, and a good night last night to be able to win that award. I'm not going to say that someone else deserves. This is the thing about the Halbergs. It's like any awards, but no one doesn't deserve to be there. Everyone's achieved something incredible to be there. So if you win something, congrats. Now, the only case where, hypothetically speaking, let's say Hamish Kerr didn't get the Men's Sportsman of the Year award, and let's say, I don't know, Shane Van Gisbergen did, hypothetically. Okay, Shane's done a great job getting into NASCAR, but come on. Hamish Kerr won the gold in high jump. Now, that's obviously
not only
hypothetical.
He won the gold. He is the best on the planet at that.
Yeah.
Out of 7 billion people, there is no one better on Earth at doing that than him.
Yeah.
And so I think, having said that, while we're talking about this, as far as the team event went, I thought the Black Fern Sevens may have inched it only because they also won that series as well as the gold. Team New Zealand again winning 3 in a row. America's Cup.
I thought they might. I thought because
the rowing mums winning a gold. I mean, how do you separate any of these?
Well, rewind.
I do actually empathy for the judges.
Rewind about 23 years to 2003. Or even 2007. The idea of Team New Zealand winning 3 in a row, 2 of them being outside of New Zealand, I wouldn't say would be unfathomable, but it'd be like, geez, okay, well, there must be an incredible turnaround by this team in the next couple of decades to be able to get to that point, because we were well off the pace then. So
and we bounced back from being 8-1 up in San Francisco and the worst choke in the history of world sport, and now have won 3 in a row. So, but the K4 crew,
yeah, back to the K4, congratulations, well done. They're not deserving at all.
Just quickly on glass half full, glass half empty. Glass half full again on Hamish Kerr winning Sports Man of the Year. I don't know what category. I know Chris Wood was also in there, but I don't know what category there could be for overachievers in New Zealand athletes in world sport that there is no category for. Because Chris Wood scoring goals for Nottingham Forest and Liam Lawson getting an F1 ride, these are things that are just not meant to happen. A Kiwi getting through to that level of those sports and achieving at that level, but because they haven't actually won anything, then it's hard to go, here's an award because what did you win? Like I used to think Julian Dean, who of course was the horse on the Tour de France and would win Tour de France races for the other guy that won by doing all the donkey work, right? But never recognised. And it's always thought, how can you get a category that recognises that? Or is it just impossible?
I think one of the key prerequisites needs to be winning.
Oh, okay.
I think, which you could argue, like Liam Lawson, for example, let's say this year he gets 6 or 7 podiums and manages to finish 4th in the championship, hypothetically, I don't know, but doesn't win a race. That's incredible that he's done that in the modern age of Formula One.
But he hasn't won.
But he hasn't won a race. So, and then you might compare that to, say, let's say Van Gisbergen wins some NASCAR races. I don't know. Or Chris Wood gets, he could get named, he probably will get named in the Premier League team of the season. He could, maybe Mo Salah gets injured and Chris Wood gets the golden boot.
Yeah, right.
So he's won something, but he hasn't won like a trophy. He hasn't won an event.
Yeah.
So I think the fact you kind of got especially in an Olympics year, the judges get a damn easy job when it's the Olympics year. Let's just focus on it.
And we won 10 gold medals. Yes. Actually, let's do the glass half full on that one. Glass half full, glass half empty on Liam Lawson. It was all launched overnight, the F1. Getting a podium finish this year. 20-something
a
GPs?
Single podium
finish. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Well, I got to assume his Red Bull car is going to be probably not quite as fast as Max's, but pretty damn fast.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot
I
of...
think Max gets a faster car.
There's a... Yeah.
Does he?
There's a lot of talk
no,
about...
no, the mechanics. No, two cars exactly the same.
Well, there's a lot of
Don't
talk
worry
about
that.
Red Bull's car not being as good this year. I don't know. I don't know if there's been much revealed in terms of pre-season testing, but apparently it's not going to be as good. And apparently Lewis Hamilton's going to be in contention for the championship, probably because that's a narrative people are trying to push.
I think they're trying to push that because Lewis Hamilton driving a Ferrari is just chaos to me.
Well, no, it's not that it's chaos. It's a guy who is, you can easily win a title at his age, but he's older than, say, when he last won it. And also, Ferrari haven't won a driver's title since 2007, by the way. And they've only really had 1 or 2 years since then where they've actually been competitive. Anyway, back to the point about Liam Lawson.
on the podium.
It is a good chance of happening, absolutely. But I think the hierarchy or the gap between first and second driver in this team is much larger than it was because Liam is, without a doubt, your number 2. I mean, Perez was as well, but Perez, I think, was a more established driver and actually won a few races and did quite well. I think there's going to be absolute all resources pushed in towards Max, and Liam's going to be like, help Max. That's your job. Help Max.
I'm going glass half full because I backed the boy in 20-something races to get.
Well, you're talking about the team that's been the best of the last 4 years getting 1 podium. I think that'll happen.
Glass half full, glass half empty. Black Caps beating Pakistan tonight, opening match of the Champions Trophy.
Glass half empty. It's in Karachi, isn't it?
Come on. Look, with Lockie Ferguson bowling, I would have gone glass half, and then he's not bowling, and Jamison isn't there yet, and Ration won't play.
Has anyone in the last 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 years, to be fair, ever sat there and gone, well, Lockie Ferguson's going to be bowling for... Oh, he's injured? Jeez, I didn't see that coming.
Well, he's just been on.
He's always injured.
No,
Lockie Ferguson,
he's supremely. He's never injured when it comes to the T20 franchise cricket.
He's supremely talented. In terms of the pace he generates, it's great. But this dude is... Cole Jamieson's the new Ferg. Well, they're both the new Shane, but he's just always injured.
He's always injured when he plays for New Zealand.
Stop it. And it's going to probably happen to Will O'Rourke because it happens to our best bowlers.
4 overs a day, about every 4th day. He always gets injured. Glass half full, glass half empty. Our man Joseph, who we spoke to yesterday, Joseph Parker, that interview on YouTube. It's just brilliant talking to this guy head of Saudi. This is the biggest fight probably of his life. Him against Dubois. You backing Joe?
No, I think Dubois wins. I would love Joe to win. Don't misconstrue me saying that, but Daniel Dubois is now. I'm not the biggest boxing expert. He is very highly rated within the industry, and I think he's seen as pretty much the main contender to Usyk outside of Fury, if Fury still is the main contender to Usyk. And Usyk himself is going to retire soon anyway. He's teased that. I think Dubois is the next face, probably not, but at least one of the main contenders.
Okay, all right.
Now, again, I'd love Joe to win. I really would. And I actually think this redemption arc of his over the last few years, which was absolutely catapulted by the Wilder win, is one of the better stories, if not the best, in New Zealand over the last 5, 6, 7 years. So good on you, Joe. And the fact that he's gotten back to this point where he's contending for another title
if he wins
is incredible.
He gets a Halberg nomination next year.
Well, he's a world champion for the second time.
There you go.
Now, just quickly, going off task a bit here. So you talk a lot about Muhammad Ali winning the belt 3 times in his career. Back then, were there 4 or 5 belts, or was there 1?
I think there was more than 1, but...
was there an obvious main one?
Yeah, it wasn't like there is now.
Where there's 4 and they're all...
5
they all seem to be on a similar...
That's why having a unification...
level.
Fight or a unification fighter who... I mean, look, that actually is the best thing that happens to heavyweight boxing is one guy gets them all, because otherwise it is a bit farcical. Being
objective here, the incredibleness of Joe being a 2-time champion wouldn't mean it's more now, if he did it in the 70s.
No, and also the belts that he's won aren't perhaps considered as the ones that Usyk has.
Right.
Plus, also you've got to beat the guy. Like, I mean, Tyson Fury didn't have as many belts. He was the guy that everyone had to beat because everyone just knew he was the best in the world at the time.
Well, and then he lost back-to-back fights to Usyk, so he's not the best anymore.
No,
but it's like Joshua had all of them for a long time, or most of them for a long time, and then
you can't
got found out.
Ali. I mean, they can't talk about those two in the same bloody sentence.
Ali wouldn't lose to Breeze.
Final one then, glass half full, glass half empty. Now that it has been announced, All Blacks play Ireland in Chicago, yes.
I thought this was already confirmed.
Well, I thought it was too, but a big announcement. You know what rugby does? Every secret comes out a year beforehand. Since we lost to them in Chicago in 2016, here's a great stat for you. We've played 10 times since then.
I ran this. I crunched the numbers not so long ago.
We both won 5.
Okay, I was going to say because there's a point where they'd won 4 of the last 6 or 3 of the last 5 or something.
That's a real rivalry. Okay, glass half full, glass half empty. On the All Blacks doing the Grand Slam.
Well, hold up. You didn't even ask me if I was What, do you want me to be glass half full or empty on the Ireland Chicago game?
No, on the Grand Slam.
Okay.
On winning all 4.
So we've got Ireland and Chicago.
Yes.
Is that the first of the 4?
Yes.
And then we have, in what order? England, Scotland, Wales?
Whatever order it is.
Glass half full.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
See, if you ask me glass half full, glass half empty, beating the box twice this year, I'd go probably not twice, once. I think.
Glass half.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But Grand Slam at the end of the year?
Yeah.
We got to beat these 4 teams. We beat Ireland last year in Dublin. We beat the Poms last year at Twiggers. We got to knock off Scotland and Wales. Come on.
Well, Scotland are... Yeah, I'm not going to...
Come on.
I'm done with talking up Scotland because they keep letting us down. Wales are just awful. Just awful. But with Ireland, does that feel like a bit of a waste that test is not in Dublin?
We beat them in Dublin last year.
No, I know, but I'm talking more about the atmosphere. I'm talking about the occasion, because that's now one of the bigger rivalries in world rugby. The biggest one's us in South Africa, probably, from, if you're talking about...
This is NZR taking it up the chutney because we've got to play a test every year in the States, which is why we took the Fiji test to San Diego. It's a commercial thing.
Maybe putting that to the side, though. Why couldn't they have us and Wales and Chicago?
Remember when we played them in 2016? They played at Soldier Field in Chicago, where it's a narrow field, of course. And just like with the NRL opener in Vegas, it's a narrow field. And I'll never forget the commentary. Sonny Bill, 245, 6'4", in for a 5. In for a 5. Get used to that in the commentary this year. Again.
DSPN.
Miles Davis joins us every Wednesday. We're going to talk a little bit of football. We're going to talk the Halberg Six Nations Super Rugby Warriors pre-season. Might as well start with the football, mate. And the United fans chanting at the Spurs fans after another dismal defeat. You're nothing special. We lose every week. You've had lots of gallows humour on the terraces over the years.
I have, mate. I have, and I suppose that's one of the great things about football and the fans. I mean, they've been going. Imagine being a Hartlepool fan, for instance. Like no glory ever. Maybe
ever.
you once got a corner, but they still turn up and they still go in. And if you don't have that, the gallows humour, if you don't enjoy it, I mean, there's only one other way. It's just go and sit in a corner and sulk for the rest of your life. I love it, to be honest. And what is it they say? It builds character. It's character building. The only thing they don't tell you is how much bleeding character you need.
But you've watched West Ham and you've watched yourselves get relegated. You've been all over the country watching West Ham. There must be times where it's just freezing cold, it's raining, you've skipped work, she's in your ear, you've lost 4-0. I mean, how do you drag yourself up from that?
I'll tell you what, you were saying that, the freezing cold. I remember being at, Christ, but I think it's the year we won the cup, actually, in 1980, up at Oldham on a Tuesday night. And they used to call that ice station Zebra, because at Boundary Park was a crap ground, freezing cold. And there's about 15 minutes ago, it was 0-0. And there's about a dozen who said, we're not going to bleed in this. No one's going to score in this game. Why don't we sneak out early and have a pint before we get on the train to go back? And as we're going out, the guy on the gate goes, you realise if you go out, you can't come back in. We say, don't have a laugh, mate. We're not coming back in. And as we walked out, there's about 150 Man United fans outside, because Oldham's just on the outskirts of Manchester, waiting to give us all a hammering. And I'm looking there thinking, this is going to be bad. And the guy behind me goes, remember, we're West Ham, we don't run. And he came flying past me, whacked into the first guy, knocked him down. And they turned and ran.
They scarpered.
Well, I'm not joking. I mean, I thought I was going to die, but thanks to the psychopath next to me, I was all right.
You've also lit a few fires on the terraces. I remember that shot up at Newcastle. That wasn't lit a fire. That was a fire. That was a fire bomb that landed, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were up at Newcastle. We were in the Leazes end, just in the corner, all the West Ham fans, and they'd been throwing darts and coins at us for the first 20 minutes of the game. And at one stage, I saw this dart land, and I picked it up, and I thought, right, this I'm going to bang back. And as I'm standing up, there's coppers there. Like, officer, I was just going to return it to him. Do you want to do it? And then, literally a minute later, I knew what it was. It was a petrol bomb, like a milk bottle full of petrol,
hell.
Lit out the thing. It landed about 2 or 3 yards in front of me, and the 2 guys had the trousers went alight. I reckon they got more injuries from all of us stamping on them to put it out, than they did for the Flames. They kept us in for about an hour after the game to try and stop any violence afterwards, because we were seething. We all went up there the next year for vengeance, but the police found out, so they canned all the special trains. So me and 3 mates drove up there, ended up on the wrong side of the ground of all the Newcastle fans. And the lad said, right, keep it quiet. Let's keep it quiet, boys. Keep it quiet. We nearly scored and all of us were up like this. And then I started having an argument with the geezers behind me and they went, Miles, is that what you mean by keeping it quiet?
Yeah, keeping it quiet. Yeah, exactly.
No,
on the down there.
Great old days, but I could go on all year. But
as soon as you open your mouth, this is the thing about New Zealand that we don't get. Maybe the deep south, you've got a different accent, but over your place, mate, as soon as you open your mouth, somebody knows. Oh, hello, you're not from around here, are you, son?
I know. I remember at Sunderland, a cop, I said, excuse me, can you tell me where this road is? Because I lost it where I parked the car. And he went, keep your mouth shut, man, or else you get your head kicked in.
Thank you, officer. Thank you very much. Let's talk Halberg's last night. I didn't watch it. I just find that it's just the whole ceremony is terribly tedious. And no disrespect to the athletes that win, but I actually just think they've got to stop that. They just need to make it an hour long, let the athletes have fun and let everyone out of there. And in the end, congratulations to all the winners. I just don't feel like there's any point arguing about should this person have got it, should this person have got it. I mean, it's just a night of joy, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is. But I mean, let's say, first of all, that the decisions are made by some opinionated people who happen to have played sport, or those of us who haven't.
Yeah, that's right.
Really
and your
level.
point is?
So it's all subjective.
Yeah.
It does create debate. I mean, mate, you spent a living for the last 25 years going on about the Halbergs. Okay, that'll be another week's worth of chat before and after.
That's right.
Lydia Ko, I don't suppose you can argue with this. It's phenomenal, especially the way that she's come back. But I was looking, I mean, for me, Hamish Kerr, I thought for New Zealand to get a high jump gold medal at the Olympics was just, I would never thought I'd see the day. And I look at the men's one as well. Yeah, I mean, Chris Wood, we would all like his achievement. Maybe because he's playing for a club overseas, it's not going to count. But what about the likes of Joseph Parker? I thought Parker should have been a nominee. Liam Lawson, I know he hasn't won anything yet.
Yeah, but how do you quantify that? Getting a seat in F1, and then we talked about this, me and Lachlan as well. Like, I mean, a Kiwi boy getting a ride in F1, that just shouldn't happen. Same as Chris Wood. You shouldn't be in the Premier League doing that from New Zealand.
Only Salah, that's Halberg in my brain. Salah and Haaland are in front of him in the goal scoring charts. Yeah. I mean, that's just outrageous.
Let's talk Six Nations before we get into the Super Rugby. This weekend, England-Scotland, that's your big game, and you've got to front up and win that game after doing what you did last week. 2 weeks ago.
Mate, yeah, I know. To be honest, I always get nervous with the Sweaties. I can still remember it was about 1990, I think it was, up at 91, 90, up at Murrayfield. And you could tell from the moment they sang Flower of Scotland that we were going to be in. And I think England had already had the championship t-shirts made.
Yeah.
They were going to do it. And they really turned us over. I mean, a few years ago at Twickenham, when we looked like we were romping home, and then they came steaming back like a Shinkansen in bullet train and run us over. This is a much better Scotland side. I expect England to win this one, and if they don't, it's going to be a massive disappointment. We're at home. We've got to be lifted by our game against France.
Yeah.
So I'm fancying the win. I think Wales are going to get well and truly beaten up by the Irish. They're just going to pound them into the ground. And I'd imagine France will do a reasonable job on it.
That French-Italy game last year was drawn, and Italy should have won that game, mate.
They should have won that game. And that was in Paris as well.
Yes, that's right. And they had a penalty, I think, late, which they missed or something. So, yeah, that's a strange one, isn't it? Because I don't know, maybe it's the historical thing between the two countries or a side by side and that. But, yeah, for some reason, Italy always turn up against France. As far as Super Rugby went, our Canes... gutted last.
Start jumping back on board.
Our Canes.
Just because your Blues lost, you want to come back to another team that lost.
I thought it was a great opening round, mate. I really did. I thought,
honestly,
it was excellent.
I'm sometimes cynical about Super Rugby recently, but what an outstanding weekend of games. Looking at R1, obviously Carl Preston, an old Tarwa College boy, which is just up the road from me.
How did he escape?
I know, but these things happen. Sometimes you haven't got the right incentives or money, or you don't move quickly enough to get them. So fantastic for him. But I'll tell you what, the person who got the ball, and every time he got it, my freckle was giving it the old half a crown and sixpence, was Sevu Reece. Like, I don't know, mate, I don't know if you watched much of the game, but for me, he was the real fear factor. He just, I don't know, every time we got the ball, I thought we were going to get done. The two, Moana Pacifica, Ardy, I remember Piri turning out for the Blues for the first time, and I was there, and it brought a tear to my eye seeing, our favoured son going out there in a dodgy shirt. Same with Ardy. But you know something? He's given great service to the Hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's lifted that side already. And that was just a cracking game, as was the Waratahs Highlanders, end to end. But being 13 points up with 4 minutes to go,
should have closed it,
you've
mate.
got to imagine that you're going to win.
Yeah.
And that missed tackle, there was one missed tackle in that last try, in their own half, I think it was. It was in the Forces half, cost them the game.
Finally, Warriors pre-season, all the rugby league pre-season, it's just, I don't know what you can read into it. Anytime you put a good score on another team and your young players, playing well, cohesive, scoring tries, it's a good sign. But I suppose, to me, you had a great training run. That's kind of what it feels like. I don't want to read too much into that.
No, I know, but I think it's tradition, isn't it, with the Warriors? This is our year.
Always.
And if you just look at it on paper and you see such a massive win against the Melbourne Storm of all teams, you think brilliant. But that was a B team really from Melbourne
it was,
Storm.
yeah.
There were a couple of players missing for the Warriors, but some promising performance as well. So Luke Metcalf there and Harris Tavita, who I've liked for a while now. RTS back in.
Yep, on the wing, and also
back in form.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that they're going to do the business. I think they'll make the top 8, but we'll have to see. I mean, the Dragons even had a big win the other day as well. So let's just enjoy it while it lasts.
Finally, then, it kicks off tonight, the Champions Trophy. This is a hard watch only because of the time zone. It's going to be one of those ones where the TV's on in the corner. I think you wake up every half an hour to check the score or whatever. So we're on the side of the draw with the bangers. Pakistan, India. You got South Africa, a weakened Aussie side, and Afghanistan. Are we meeting in the semis or the final here or what?
I think you lot will win. You only need to win one of those, key games. South Africa and Australia are probably both going to beat England. We've won, I think, one of our last 9. You've only lost one of your last 6. You beat Pakistan quite comfortably, just a week or two
Bit
ago.
of warm-up match,
twice. So I fancy the Black Caps to make it. I don't think England will make it through, but you never know. Sometimes when teams are crap, they do it. And England have never won that tournament. New Zealand, of course, won it in 2000 when it was a sort of a relatively new competition. So I fancy the Black Caps will go on and win it. Be either them or India, I reckon.
That's our podcasting show for today. Again, if you're liking what you're listening and what you're seeing, then a small favour, if you will. Can you please hit like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend about it. We are a fledgling podcast and show, the DSPN, and we need you. And if you are participating, well, just click that subscribe button. That would help enormously. Thank you so much if you already have. Again, tell a friend if you like. We're doing this every single day, putting out a show every afternoon. The DSPN.
This is the DSPN.